I'm Kristen Rogers-Brown. I know almost all the faces in here. If I don't know you, I'm sure we'll talk at some point. I'm the graphic design department chair at PNCA. Oh, applause should follow everyone this way. And we're kicking off our fall lecture series in graphic design. I'm so excited this year for that. We have a good crowd from some different departments, some alumni, some current students. I know we have some past students online too, and we have some of our friends dialing in online who have been who were attending our virtual series during the pandemic. So I'm always really happy to see that, and really happy to see our guests bringing in some friends as well. So thanks for doing that. The Design Lecture Series started a few years ago in collaboration with Fisk Studio as a way to broaden our minds and open our doors to all the various possibilities within design that the world can hold. And Vitor is a great example of possibilities in design. I want you all to see examples of what designers can do and be and make and start in the world. We are many things. We are not always just designers, but we're instigators and communicators and writers and makers and all kinds of things. So I'm excited to show you some possibilities tonight. I'll start with a land acknowledgement. Here at PNCA, I want to acknowledge that the land that we're located on rests on the traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Cathlamet, Clackamas, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Molalla, bands of the Chinook, and many other tribes who have made and still make their homes along the Columbia River. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native American families today. As settlers and guests on these lands, we respect the work of the Native nations, leaders, and families, and make ongoing efforts to center Indigenous knowledge, creativity, resilience, and resistance. So, with that in mind, Vitor is a fabulous designer. He's also a fabulous communicator. He has a really broad practice. One of the things I loved reading about in his bio is that he centers his identity as an immigrant as part of his practice and who he is first in that bio. And I think that place can really dictate how we work a lot in design, and bringing your culture or cultures into those different places that you live. It's definitely something I'm inspired by looking at Vitor's work and hearing him talk about it. I think in addition to the beautiful work in fashion and in communication design that I see from Vitor, he's also just a great speaker and a dynamic person. And I just feel like he has this magnetic energy that makes me see a lot of possibilities. So I knew him briefly as a student, and then reconnected quickly a little bit ago to get to know him a little better before coming in. But I hope you guys can feed off some of that energy today. I will let Vitor take it from here. Thank you.
Hi. Okay. Well, wow. I'm not that great, so lower your expectations of a communicator. I'd like to thank first Kristen for the lovely introduction. And but first, I want to thank Amber Marsh, who was the person that put my name forward, and a very important person in my life. And then Kirsten. For the lovely conversation that we had, which was fairly quick, very intense, and ignited what we're gonna watch today here. Oh, there we go. Ooh. No peeking. So pretend I just said all of that with this in the background. When we discussed why I could be here and what could I contribute at any level, we traveled in a lot of areas that we had in common and our perception of what design is. And although this is a graphic design lecture, I will navigate back and forth on the areas of design, but I would like to really put attention on the word design and move on from there. The main question that came out was, what isn't design? And I don't know. And if you want to leave now, that's the conclusion. I'm not gonna change. But if you're gonna start now, we're gonna go backwards, which is a good way to approach problems and check if we know what is design. Well, I know. I think I know, or at least what design is for me. Design is form and function. Everybody had that class that everybody talks, and we conclude together that design is form and function. But nowadays, and I've been checking it online, there's a lot of talk of sustainability. But sustainability is a word that sometimes, or most of the times, is associated with ecology and the nature. And that's not really the case for design. There is a lot of trashy, not very caring for the environment design, and it's not less design because of that. So I just cut that out and I changed it for feasibility, because the idea of sustainability in that sense is that it's sustainable or executable or feasible. But feasible starts with a F, so that will be nicer. The idea is, can we do it? Both if we have obstacles on gravity or real things, is it possible to make? And also on the realities we face, like a budget or a deadline. But the point is to try to talk about design, not design something or something design. You have design, graphic design, apparel design, or design thinking, design strategy. And when you take the second word out, design is everything. Everything is designed. If it's made, it's designed. Man never made fire. Man designed fire. Man used tools to execute, to fix, I don't know, I wasn't there. So to produce fire, we're not X-Men, we're men. Or men, women, everybody. The point is that if everything is designed, we're gonna have to go way more simple here. And instead of form, function, and feasibility, we're gonna use some simple words like, whoop, doom. Want, plan, choose, and do. You want to do it, you plan how to do it, you choose what you're doing it for, and you do. And so I've been looking around and there's some skeptical faces, and I want to address that by thinking about a buffet. If you go to a buffet, you design your plate. You put the dries with the dries, or the dries with the wets, or the wets with the wets. So you want to eat, you plan how to do it, you choose either your plate or your mom's plate because she asked you to do it, and then you execute it. It's just these 4 steps. But I have to prove that to you. So I will share with you the good, the bad, the ugly, and the pixelated. If those of you who are very young, when you start working and go to your files from a while ago, they might have kbytes. So embrace the pixel, please, in order for us to move on. And just to open that, I want to share this little project that I did, and this is going to be a little tiny, in the break of school, and I don't know really why I did that. It does show a lot about where I come from, so I always start with the ugly, so hating beautiful people was a good place to be, and I don't know why I was silver at some point, but we can move on from that. It's just to prove the point that it's not about quality. It's not a value judgment. It's a process judgment. But then you start the school, right? When do you start identifying as a designer? I was born in Brazil, and I did my education back in Portugal, and it was literally a factory. We were there from 9 to 5. We had missing minutes, so if you missed more than 20 hours a year, you're out. We were 12 and graduated 4. And I got paid to study, so I'm not complaining. But the point, what I learned there was rules, tools, repeat. Rules, tools, repeat. It was very close knitted with the industry, and I have a lot to thank them for that. But also, I have a lot of desires to break. You just saw how I wrote rules and tools, so I like to break tools and rules. And this was the first time I broke a rule. This was my first ever collection on a catwalk, and I broke one rule, and I followed all the other rules I learned in school. I went and searched for a concept. The concept was the Diamond Dogs, an album from David Bowie that was supposed to be a soundtrack for 1984. And in 1984, Big Brother, not seeing, so golden glasses, why not? And it was written in 1948, so, okay, post-war, men's apparel adapted to women's body, so A, B, C, D, E, I did all the line like I learned. But then I met someone called the Daughter of God, and that was the name of a brand, and I became the bastard son. That was my first ever identity, and how I understood that design was going to go that direction for me. I became the bastard son. If you go to Portugal, they still call me little bastard, and I love it. I expanded from this idea of apparel that I learned in this very structural construction, from yarn to fabric to pattern, from pattern to confection to selling, to explore what is my brand and create my identity, and work with Joana Machado, who did the logo for me. And when this starts, then you want to do some merch, you want to expand that brand. I created a little corner on a shop, and a lot of metal glasses now produced by laser cut, so we could have them around. But it's about expanding a little bit more. But this was the best part of me. This is an event that I did, and I produced so much label that I didn't know what to do with it. So I decided that if I give it to people, are their clothes mine? Am I the designer of those clothes now that they are branded? And I gave a lot of those away. Maybe the market value went down, but the sheer experience of what is this and how can I question these values was steering an idea that I call design as work. After that, I did a collection called White Trash. A lot of denim. I had Levi's 501, 1002, minus 501. So it was a lot of can I just use these things, turn them upside down, brand them, and move on? I guess I could. And then became the image, and was like, well, let's be a little sexy, and let's bring a beer every time you're with on camera. And that became my best friend for a long, long time. And I just add this one because I look so young and nice. But design was not only that. I was invited to go to Lisbon. I lived in Porto, in the north of Portugal, and Lisbon was 3 hours away. I was given a room to do whatever I wanted. So design for me was traveling with the fridge for 4 hours, to put a lot of labels in beers and offering those beers for everyone, making a party and hiring bands from everybody from Porto to go all the way to Lisbon to do concerts and make a lot of noise in the middle of the fashion week every time a show ended. And that was very dirty, very loud. There was beers everywhere, but the director loved it and she invited me to join. When she invited me to join, I was also approved to get an internship in Berlin. So one part of me went to Berlin, the other part went to Portugal, and I had to make that work. In Berlin, I learned how to hand knit. I learned how to think about other objects and not be too attached to the objects that we think in apparel. So I put those two together and I made a line of cocktail Molotovs. This obviously badly knitted on purpose, and because I didn't know how to knit very well, Molotovs inspired a collection called Watch the Greek. Watch the Greek was my first catwalk collection. It had a lot of knitwear. I was going to really exercise that and move on and test the limits of what I can do with knitting. There was the feasibility of doing a coat out of beer bottles and a vest out of beer bottles. It was very heavy. Everybody asked that. And I was still, if not A, B, C, D, A, B, B, A, C, still with that linearity, very close to the academy. And also the little bits you see in their faces is parts of my face, because I was giving my face for them to rebel. Then it came Macedonian Identity, my collection afterwards, which was a response to Greece because they are enemies. Macedonia, it didn't have a name back then. It was the former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia because the Greeks didn't let them have a name, basically. So I exercised creating an identity, a duality between blues and grays, oranges and warm tones, and knit more weird stuff. So knitting headphones, creating my own needles to knit gigantic stuff that you see on the top with the big holes on the knitwear, making this amazing jumpsuit, and also playing a lot with other materials that I didn't account for. That was when I started. I did have access to a lot of cardboard, and that's how that ended up happening. And it was a fragility of the cardboard also that brought it in together. Building a country on something sturdy because you can do furniture with it, and at the same time, if it rains, it's not great. Then, for the first time after a long life of being an immigrant, I was back to my home country. And I went back to São Paulo, where I saw a totally different city. And when I realized that the mayor of São Paulo has forbid any publicity in the city was stripped down. I made a collection called São Paulo, and I started to reconnect with where I'm from, my culture. And Kristen mentioned that in the beginning, and I was like, oh, this is so great, because it's going to go all aligned. And starting to do collaborations, first with the jewelry that you see on the top left, and then the bracelets on the right, which were neighborhoods of São Paulo designed by Inês Nunes, that laser cut the whole map. And then we together figured what could be earrings, what could be pins, what could be bracelets, and etc. And starting my partnership with Adidas with the shoe tennis dress. Now I'm going to introduce you another short video about things you can do and have fun for and call it design. Okay, so that was that. You can climb on stuff and create stories and collaborate. So basically, this was a lot of collaboration. We did an album for all the neighborhoods of São Paulo with Pietro Casella, and made this video with Colonia, which is a video producer back, and we're talking 13 years ago, but let's jump that part. This is Tanzing, a collection about skin that I started to exercise. What if I do something that is beautiful and desirable? I really never accounted for it before. It was about storytelling and creating things that hold on to the concept. And for the first time, I was like, oh, what if we do better materials? This is fish leather that you see there, salmon leather, recycled, amazing. And some very expensive threads and high quality. That was a completely new experimentation. It opened a lot of doors. It made me reconnect to Germany, and I presented this collection in Poland also. But obviously, I did a little bit of weird stuff, right? So the jewelry was my fingers, because doing things and exercising quality made opened the opportunity for me to start my own production company. So I did production for export for brands in mostly Paris and Berlin, because we could produce in Portugal for a cheaper price, and I would share. And that would give me the freedom to do whatever I wanted with my label, because I didn't have to make any money from that. It was messy, but people didn't see it. I just found these pictures now. With total freedom, I turned back to myself. I did a collection about my life. I was probably young, so I didn't have a lot of life to go by. But since I was 15, I was saving T-shirts from every event that I've been. And I had a pretty big collection that I decided to undress. And that's me in my underwear in the trailer. And present it. On the right side, you can see this necklace. You're going to see more pictures of it in the next slide, which is also another way to find who's going to pay for it. Basically, it was a partnership with Big Pants, and that partnership, when they were making 60 years old celebration, they produced the Big Pants in silver and gold. So I did the Stars of David that represent the culture of this nomad life that I was taking now and forever, and still a little bit. This is a little bit of the overview, but we're going to move on and see things from close. Every stripe you see there is a piece of a T-shirt. I cried a lot. I did take pictures of myself, but I will never, ever... Pictures, no, I recorded myself, but that's never going to come out. Based on the cheapest fabric I could find to complement, and how all these T-shirts meant something to me, the whole collection was the collection that had the most press I've ever had in my life. I realized that being emotional, being true, being honest, and being present, because there was a lot of Marina Abramovic back then, and it was the time that the artist as present was out, and I thought, is the designer present too? And I wanted to be present. So this is Wolverine in the middle. I used to love that T-shirt. I lost a lot of T-shirts, but a lot of them were second-handed. I didn't have anything to wear afterwards. And how the fabrics acted differently, and how some were used. And when you unfold the seams, you start to see different colors were a big part of this process. And this was, for me, still one of my favorite works of all time. But where comes life, comes death. And I understood that this was going to be a trilogy. So for me to be alive, I need to kill myself. And that's life and death. And that was also the headspace that I was at that time. I embraced the whole process with the artist is present, with a little wake for myself. This is me inside of the coffin. You can see it in the... I did have a lot of fun there. I was drinking wine and smoking, because there you can smoke on restaurants. I worked with this chef, Luis Saldanha, who is there in the middle of in the center picture, who did squid ink rice. So everything was black. The food was black too. And you cannot really read it, but there was some clothes shown in another room, and if you wanted to buy something, you needed to ask the dead guy for the price. To go together with the wake, we have to have a funeral. In a funeral, which was a catwalk show, which opened with Sepultura, and that was the best thing I've ever seen. Is like a first row, scared of Sepultura, and very, very, very loud. And I started to exercise not only the deconstruction, but the unfinished and the destroyed. First, I have a lot of scars. None of them have a good story. They're mainly me learning how to walk. But I wanted to replicate those and really drag this deep, dark idea. Press was okay. I don't think people were really fun and engaged with this emotion. But it was part of building myself as a designer. And I destroyed a lot. I didn't deconstruct. I knitted and unknitted. I bought and destroyed. We have a friend from Britain, so I bought a lot of stuff at Primark because they were cheaper. And that was the exercise that I did to really embrace this very slow-paced catwalk that was like a marcha funebre, like the march. But the music was also actually dubstep, but they were walking very slowly. So performance was part of it, not only through me. And then there was Rebirth. Rebirth was designed with 0 Fs. I'm saying F because this is going to be on YouTube. But what if I don't care? What if I do it because I want to do it and I don't have to tell people what I'm doing? So I shove a lot of unicorn meat, and I did a collection of things that I desired. I expanded from the knitwear for crochet and as a representation of the pieces before, and really went on with unicorns, ponies, pony chains, nipples, pugs, watercolor rainbows, everything that I liked because I liked. And to those who weren't alive no, old enough back then, this was the time of Tumblr. Tumblr was a wonderful place where memes, dreams, and porn lived together happily. And I was just bringing Tumblr to life, and I didn't even know I was doing that. I didn't even know people were really into it. This was a commercial success. I don't know how, but people were really open for it. And it didn't end there. I was working with this girl called Luisa Cativo, and we did a lot of activation. This was one of the most fun projects that I had. And we went to Madrid. We hired a DJ from Barcelona, so we met in Madrid. He brought a boombox. We made a party to just go on the streets. It was kind of a party flash mob, but flash mob has a bad connotation now, so it wasn't a flash mob. It was just fun, and people were open to it, and things started to bubble. And I was excited to see that and what that means. This was the catwalk show back in Lisbon. It was great because all the shows in Lisbon are in historical buildings, so it does bring a whole energy to it. And I learned 2 major things. One, what if you invite everyone that puts a unicorn on their pictures to the catwalk show and make it not a bougie thing? It was fun. And second, if you hire an artist to make a stage that works with powder ink, do not give them flour because they're going to do a huge line of cocaine on the floor. But when they do it, just embrace it. Go for it, right? And there's another one.
Come on closer. Come on closer.
Yep, there's that. Why not find the hairiest friend you have and do unicorn ice cream cones? But why not, why not, why not? And you might end up founding your own religion. Yeah, the sky is the limit. I don't know. I was having fun. Why not a warrior cat, wise bug, and shrimp, flying shrimps, and shrimp crowns, and a sari made out of fur, and nose rings, pigeon suits, shells as bling blings. And back to producing desirable clothing and the grumpy cat, obviously. This was an exercise on the exercise on the exercise that led to a final exercise, which was Vitor United, a soccer team, and the end of Vitor without a last name. I needed a boss. I was tired because design work is overwhelming. I don't know if you feel overwhelming. It did look overwhelming. I did that on purpose for you to feel overwhelmed. But it is overwhelming. And I wanted a job. So I went to Barcelona and worked as maybe interior designer. I did furniture for exhibitions that were itinerant and needed to be folded and changed from one museum to the other for the Mancomunitat of Catalonia in Spain. And it was really great because it was nothing of my taste at all. I was executing, I was making it and learning how to do correct instead of cute or cool or nice, and getting rid of those horrible adjectives that don't help with anything. So there was a lot of experimentation on this side. And on the other side, I got connected to a museum and I was able to do this amazing project, which was a project with the Museum of Sant Boi de Llobregat, which is near Barcelona, and had a project for integration, cultural integration of Moroccan women. And it was intense because I didn't speak Spanish that well. They didn't speak Spanish that well. The husbands were outside, not really trusting that I was with their wives, but we built together something and I was completely out of the decision making. So they were my bosses. I was there to teach everybody to do this European style of knitting. And from then on, the color decision and all the processes were a decision of them. I really wanted to stop being a showrunner and really exercise design on that sense. But that was a job, that was not a job. And I was ready for a design job. That's where I crossed paths with Adidas and my home country, because they were connected with their culture and I was disconnected with mine. So it was time to me to go home. This is the fun part of what I did in Brazil. It was after the Olympic during the Olympic Games and after the World Cup, and there was a lot of intent to connect to the local consumer. There was not a lot of money, but I learned that if you exercise more in this type of environment and hire artists that can be present in the artworks, you can get them excited and then sell the excitement inside of a company and then sell the excitement inside of a global company and then get a little bit more money. This project started in Brazil, and then it was Brazil and Argentina, then it was Brazil, Argentina, and Mexico, and then it was Brazil, Argentina, Mexico, and Colombia. So I hope I don't get in trouble, but the original budget was $1,000 for hiring an artist. Yeah. But it became something way bigger after that because it started to have a lot of communication on it, and they were believing more in the project and doing more versions of it. In the end, this is a graphic artist that works with cement, that was able to create a cement piece and then reproduce it on the apparel. The collection expanded a lot, and I was able to work with a photographer from Argentina, but I couldn't find a good video, so imagine it. There was another side, obviously. It was a very small office of a big company, and I designed around 200 items per season. And it was a lot, but I loved the lot. And this is a special case because this is for Argentina. And although I talked about politics and Greece, in Macedonia, in other projects of mine, now I was living it. In Argentina, you are obliged to produce locally by the government, and we were producing locally with the quality we could produce and doing a entry line product for the people, but we're losing money on it. So together with the PMs and the support of the Creation Center, we created a special line only for Argentina called 3 Stripe Life, and not lose money while still having huge margins on the imports. We could balance and create a whole idea with old techniques and very old factories, but with some sort of value added to the creative process. While in Brazil, I was making a $26 swimsuit, which was my introduction to reverse engineering, which is how can you make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And I love cheap. I don't know. I had the math behind design and the obstacles and that we face were exciting. Another obstacle was swimwear. Welcome to Brazil. This is what men use when we go to the beach. And this was a winning market. We already had, we were leading, and we could experiment and expand more. So having uncomfortable conversations was also important. So, some guys want, we call it sungas, white sungas, because they want to show their package. And we have to talk about that because that's what the consumer wants. If it's uncomfortable for us, or people go to the gym because they want to get married. Well, there's 4 soap operas a day in Brazil. And every end of the soap opera, you want to know who's with who. Getting married is a big deal. And if you can be fit and find someone fit, you're going to go to the gym. So you want to go to the gym, not like a workout, but also a little bit like a fashion show. And the same goes here, but also if you do pattern, then the 3D areas get more nuanced. So we can exercise that too. Since we're winning the market, why not? But saying this and repeating it led me to this. This is what a design job is. Once you find it, you will repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, which can be a little disheartening, and I don't want anyone to be sad. So repeat also means strategy. I was very fortunate to be the head of the innovation team back in São Paulo, and strategy was a big part of it. So now that we know what are the obstacles that we encounter in every season and everything, what can we do to create a system that works better with it? That is what I brought when I came here. I didn't do much of it, but why? What are the possibilities that we have once you create and really acknowledge who are the people? This is NCAA training for university students that just started a new life in university. So you have. I do like dualities. I think you're gonna get that a lot, and those were supposed to be reversible. It never got made. The rest of the stuff was all made. This was just not very successful. Basically, you want to join and you want to be part of something, and also you want to be brave, and you are in a new state and you're starting a new life. So this duality was what built the whole idea on this part, and design strategy was getting more and more and more in my head in a very marketing directed business. So I thought about, okay, let's do this Thinkers Lab. Let's do more of design, and let's get design to power. Like, we cannot be waiting for marketing people. Marketing people respond, we create. Just keep that in mind if you're fighting with someone that works in marketing. Thinkers Lab was an exercise of how can we get the creative potential inside of the company to really create connections to get closer to the consumer and make new exercises and be innovative and be a leader. And that got me fired. Well, that didn't get me fired, but I got fired at that time. Well, that was lovely because I came here. And there was a name that I didn't know of, which was design systems, which was what I studied here. And it added up. It made sense. What is design? Design is doing and repeating, and then repeating and learning and then strategizing. So I went first inward. That was my project, my graduation project that never happened, but for other reasons. But that's how I started here. It was really getting connected with myself again and taking these two lanes. One, myself, the other, me for others. And the shame project was because I was ready to share with everyone that I was living with HIV and that I didn't like secrets and I didn't want to have secrets. So I did a video, and that video was what got me invited for giving a TED Talk last year. So now I'm saying this to 7,000 people live, but I didn't want to say just that. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't care if you want me to be embarrassed, I will not. But wait a minute. What about HIV that is important is that we have a solution and we're not using it. And that is also a design strategy problem. We have to look at it and address the elephant in the room. Obviously, not elephants could be addressed because you have to give and take. So some of the elephants were kept in secret, and this is my series of the words that I said or whispered or swallowed during the TED Talk, one by one, that I'm doing. So if you're curious, I have a YouTube channel and you can check it there. So all the words that I couldn't really address because, design is also constriving with the environment you are in and the people you're working with. And this is on that side of personal. And then on the other side was work. I was ready to install design systems to my work life. And it all started with Bayer G4A, which is innovation part of the Bayer in Germany. And 2020, the famous year where I got married, but everybody else was really miserable. And I just tried to exercise an idea of the light in the end of the tunnel connected to the concept that they had already, which was agents of change. It was about the people that were joining this event online, every individual one of them. And on 2021, we were already seeing a little bit of light of the tunnel, and the design changed 100%. We were able to breathe and stop thinking about ourselves. We can go to the moon, but for the people. Innovation in and technology in healthcare is a great tool for the future, and I think I was very proud to be part of that. So that led to Health for All the first year, and expanded to Health for All with other lanes in the year of 2022. The idea here is to create an identity and to step out a little bit as a designer and sometimes not do. So if we had a successful idea, we don't need to create a new one just because we have the budget for it. Maybe we can shift it. And this is what design has that marketing doesn't, because we need to be able to communicate through departments, and not design should also, we should definitely get paid for not designing if it's the right choice. And I'm happy to have a good friend here today who did this work, which was the entry work with CDP, Community Development Partners, which is another lane of the work that I've been doing. And it was a very complex project with a lot of money into it and a lot of artists, some of them that came to PNCA. And I arrived at the end of it and I had to wrap it up in a present and deliver. So basically, I just expanded and applied this to a 10 by 10, which was everything we had, with a good story that made a 10 by 100 feet. And everybody started to embrace it. And then at the end of the day, even Gresham City embraced it and let us use the whole fence. There's two more projects I want to share. And it's been a long time. Thank you for hanging with me, people. The latest project is the project that I'm working on right now, and I want to talk a little bit and very quickly about it. It's called Las Flores, and it's also affordable housing in Oregon City, and that's the process. First, who are you working with? Then, what's the goals you have? And goals are short. Goals are achievable, and on the one hand, you have achievable goals, but you have to have long-term objectives. And the objective of this was the best objective I've ever had in my life, which is just like, how can we make communities possible? Well, I divided it in 3 areas: pride, home, and play. Expanded to graphic language. Turned all the rooms into kids' rooms because kids rock and they are the best. And where kids are, people will follow, and make it really fun. Interpret the architect and working really close to the architects. And this has been a wonderful team. I just wanted to say, to reinterpret the colors on the breezeways that you see there, to create this idea of pride and connection with everything. And everybody was doing their work. Like, these are not the same colors that I was using. They were variations with creative input because if you're going to do a logo that is this big, you want to use one yellow. But if you want to do a wall, you might want to use another. And it's expertise and collaboration and going back and forth. And creating these breezeways, which was an incredible opportunity to create this idea of living spaces and expand them and drive people there. Can we guarantee it? No. Can we try to make the conditions? Yes. And finally, the community center that they have in the middle, which is going to be with the kids' room, with a strong sense of identity and pride to give the people that live there. And this is another project that I did. Last one, thank you for hanging again. I'll stop saying that. Called Human, which was empowering Black people in Berlin. And Black greatness. No, it was very specific on excelling. It was a very money-directed guy from business, and he didn't know exactly what he wanted. He wanted to have Black greatness, and this is and he had this amazing name, so we went from there. And it looks very messy because it doesn't have to be ABC. ABC is math. Well, it's kind of is. Design has to be done, has to be cleaned, has to be converted into text. You make a big text, you convert to a smaller text. You find ways to work, and you find who are you working with. You select what is important for your team. You go back to those values every time you meet. You put them together and you agree on every time and create your design guides, your content and your feel. And I don't mind selling this because it changes, sharing this because it changes. It's not a tool. Well, they are tools and they are great tools to be used, but creating tools, breaking tools, and using tools for different things is very, very important. So I divided into content. What do we have? This is an either-or kind of game. Is it like this? Is it like that? Which one do you prefer, or both? Understand what's the feel, what's the energy that's going to be there. A lot of things that normally, at least in my work experience, we didn't talk about. And then reorganizing the company structure, because everything will affect everything. And then cleaning everything again and concluding. So, who's tired? Victor, what is design then? Design is everything, everywhere, all at once. And I know it's a movie, but it's also what design is. And if there is a good pack of words together that really explain what design is, let's just use it. But if what is design is what I just try to bring, is because it's important that we all approach it as designers. Design thinking became something for non-designers. We need to be designers, and the name of design strategy is just a name. We don't need to be too attached to that. But it doesn't fit a 5-step. It doesn't fit a spiral graph. It doesn't fit an infinitive loop. It is human. It is design. So that is what design is, and what isn't design is just something that I'm going to share. I didn't have a scholarship, but then I made this photo shoot there of me grabbing stuff from and I think that was design, or it was designed for me. But what isn't design? What is design? Want, plan, choose, and do. It's very simple. If you want 4 steps, it's 4 steps, but think of it like tap dancing. You're gonna step a lot, and we're gonna use those tools. What do you want? Do you really want that? What does someone tells they want is what they want. You're gonna have to massacre all this process, revisit, reuse them, and destroy it when necessary. But then, all of that for what? What isn't design? I don't know. That's it. Thank you. And I apologize, I probably went beyond, no? Did I?
We're okay. Thank you so much. We have, for anyone who wants to stay, we have some time for questions. I know some folks are getting back into class, so if you need to sneak out, that's also okay. But maybe if folks can stay around a little bit, we'll take questions for 15 minutes or so. And I'll walk around with the mic so that folks online can hear your questions. And Flo is going to monitor the chat just in case people have questions online.
Well, I just gave a class here and I pointed at people, so they know that already.
I know, right? We could just, you're not required to ask questions, but if you have a question, just kind of wave your hand and I'll bring the mic around. Yeah.
You said during your TED Talk you had to hold back with the audience. Were they restricting you on things you were saying? Is that a thing that we should be aware of with TED Talks? Or is that I kind of jokingly, but also genuinely, or was it just your consideration for the people you were talking to?
No, that's a very, very valid question. I put it out there, so it's on me. For me, what I did was design a TED Talk. That was how I understood my experience. Because you meet a company that has values, and it is a company. And all companies, they might be nice, but they are about doing what they do best, which is bringing on profit. So in my case, there was never trust any company, ever, if I have to say something. They're not people, although legally they are. But yeah, like the message that I was bringing forward is not easy. Okay, we have the solution to end HIV, and obviously, like happens all the time. It happened to me so many times in the university. The problem is capitalism. It is, but we're not fixing that one, and we sometimes don't want to push buttons. There are sponsors, and when I say design is figuring out what can you do inside of the conditions that you put in. I hope I answered your question in the sense of they do have their values and they did have a vision for my participation. When I came and I said, hey, I want to point the finger at everyone and say that's their fault. I was like, well, that's not going to stick. So, you always can do the best you can and keep on doing. Because systems, and this is really important, any system is imperfect. If it would be perfect, it would be nature. Systems need to be updated, need to be checked, need to be reviewed all the time. And if the system is external to you and you have your values, they are not going to be the same.
Hello. So I just want to congratulate you on just this presentation because it was a lecture I didn't know I needed, especially the death part. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in the process and like the how and the why and just the whole thing. So just watching another creative like explain their emotional sporadic thought was truly inspiring. What I would like to, I guess my question would be in the space of just seeing how you were able to establish yourself as a creative in many different spaces and from a place of like breaking the rules. What advice would you give for people who are coming into a smaller space like a Portland? Because I'm a creative that has that intense energy of just always wanting to create and seeing ideas in bigger spaces. Even as I was talking with my friend, we were having the conversation earlier. How do you exist in spaces where people aren't ready to actually receive your creative vision?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a great question, and there is no formula. I learned that I should be always true to myself, and very slowly, I was learning that bits and pieces of myself, and I made peace with myself, I don't even know, like 2 years ago, with a very important fact of my life that I've been living with since 2015. I think after COVID, it's been difficult to collaborate. We unlearned how to interact with other humans, and we need to learn that, and that's going to take its time. But it's through collaboration that you will exercise your identity. Most of the things that I have there, I produced a video, we had ideas, we were constructing it together in a very positive way, but there was a video director, and there was, then I was working with a stylist afterwards, and getting other creatives. I don't know, I don't live in online spaces, because it doesn't come very natural to me, but they are super powerful nowadays. And you're not locked in land now. And you can always bridge to other creatives and just do, and continue doing. Because if you, I just had to look back at all of this. which I haven't seen for a long time. And there was stuff like, oh my God, that was a bad decision. And they are going to be there. And I made peace with them. And like, you know, very like some hairstyles, I did hide them on the pictures. But it is part of you. So collaboration, everybody says it, but it is true. Because nowadays, we got a lot of tools, but it is the synergy between people that brings it up. And I was just so eager that I just did. And I don't know, like you talk about reception, no, like are people ready for that? I was so naive. I didn't really worry about that. I got people in a weird place that they were not expected to get hit. So they weren't very sure. And that was 10 years ago. So these are maybe more common spaces now. And I was a hippie also. So I wasn't expecting any money from it. So these are two different lanes. They might work together, you know. I met Alexander Wang in Berlin when I was there, and he had a totally different path. His company was worth 20 million back then. And I was doing creative work to be able to pay the bills and do more creative work. And when you're young, your back doesn't hurt that much. You don't need a very good mattress. You just do it because you want to do it. It sounds stupid, but I hope I got across to you.
Thank you. Going back to the space of you saying that just kind of just do, I think that it does take death to like relearn what people are trying to tell you.
And be honest, really be honest, because I think in the end of the day, from the office and the uncomfortable conversations that you have to have in order to design best, you have to have those conversations with yourself. Where is it coming from? And letting it go, letting it brew out of you.
Definitely.
That was sometimes problematic. Now I survived, but the collection that I did about my death had a different environment, and it was valid. And also relax on what success means. Success, this is what I tell myself, that it is difficult to believe it, but you keep telling, and maybe one day you get there, is not money. It's all these external values to define your success are external values that don't know you. So if you feel things and you don't feel successful enough after doing something, meet those feelings and use them.
Yeah, I agree. I'm coming from more of the, professionally I've been designing in the commercial space for over decades. So
do you need a hug?
Exactly. So I understood everything. So as I'm saying, I understand the space of death and like the conversations, the briefs, the factories, all that.
So it's more the Adidas part and how to. So I think I came with you know what? I'll tell you. It's a small office. It was a small office from a big company. We were not many. I was the only designer at my level. So there was no competition. So when I came here, it was really hard for me. There was like 10 of me, and none of them looked like me. And I couldn't take it. So I'm sorry.
I'm coming from New York, where there's only one of me most of the time too. So I definitely understand. I think it's just finding a space to exist and just live out loud. And I feel like we're having like
We can catch up
it's one of
afterwards.
those
Yes.
things that I hope resonates with everyone, is just always having the courage and the bravery. And I think that always existing and being able to speak that truth, and it's contagious. And I just want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
All right. So nice to see you again, Vitor. Have you here. So much of your work, like I didn't know 99% of all the stuff that you've done. And you have been on this recursive process of like finding new ways of making, and then like thinking differently because you're making differently. And now you're thinking different, like it's a cycle. And so with that, in that context, what is your dream project moving forward? Because you've kind of gone into this digital graphic design space, and that, I assume you're thinking differently now. So with all of that in mind, what's your dream project?
I don't know. At this moment in time, I'm reconnected with the impact. So this is why I'm loving to do this project with affordable housing and things that have meaning. I think we all feel more fulfilled when this happens. I haven't dreamed of, like, my dream project is a project that I'm developing myself with, that started in Shame and then went to the TEDx and then Keywords. And I'm crawling on that space. I don't know what I'm doing. And for the first time, I'm fine because I'm not supposed to know what I'm doing because I didn't do videos before. I wasn't on videos before. And I'm very interested in that. So I feel, for one side, I like to embrace projects that I don't expect. If I can do that, that's the dream. Every time have something that I have to learn, that I can budget for the learning part of the process, and be surprised again. The repetition can be hard. It's very hard for me. Every time I did like a talent interview, like, what is your career choice or ideal? They were like, oh, you should do very short term, very impactful things and move on. And was like, does that job exist? And it's hard. So I'm trying to do that from another angle. And whenever so I started working in construction, and I thought shingles were the thing I had in my bag. I didn't know shingles were a pattern. And that gave me the best in to communicate with people because I could ask stupid questions. So a dream is for keeping having surprises. And thank you for your question. Now I'm going to be thinking about it.
Hey, thanks for being here, sharing your story. So my name is Silver, and here's what's been happening for me. So after being in the realm of visual art and design and various other forms of creation for so many years, I feel that I am, growing very weary of a social media space. I'm growing very weary of screens. I'm growing very weary of the ways in which we use these particular technologies. And there's a certain, like you were talking about Tumblr, and it's like that raw expression. There was a sense of curation, but it's different now. And like, the effects of capitalism, so on and so forth, everything is exponentially like speeding up. And it feels like there's there's more of an emphasis on quantity over quality. And that has really burned me out as a creative. And I just remember some years back where maybe I would share something and, people would engage with it in a way that felt more genuine. And it feels like now we're all sharing and it doesn't feel as genuine. It's like we have to share more often, right? Whereas in back in the day, it was like you did a good piece of work that might last you for a little while, and now you got to keep doing it, and then you got to do it faster and better each time, right? And just the machine of it all is just so tiresome. I recently deactivated all of my social accounts, and just kind of, I've had over 200 art patrons on Patreon, and just all kinds of support online, and I just couldn't do it. I just deactivated everything, and at some point, I feel like I might need to go back and give some people some sort of explanation. Although people who have been following me for a while, I'm sure, might have an inclination of what's going on in this way. But I have also seen this sentiment echoed with other kinds of creators, and I'm thinking about, in this case, the idea of personal branding, right, and how important it is for designers, and various kinds of creatives to have a really strong sense of a personal brand. And I think I've seen this happen with other creators who are, famous internationally, so on and so forth, right? Who have just said, fuck it, and just deactivated everything, and they've just been gone for years, and I'm just it just feels so good. I feel so good. Nobody knows what I'm doing. If I create anything, it's for me and the people who are right next to me. And I just want to know what you think. What do you think about that as we move into this future that is demanding more and better and faster, more often, at higher quantities, exponentially, every second, every millisecond of every fucking day? What is the future of design for us as designers? How are we going to deal with this? It's overwhelming, and it's not sustainable.
Wow. Yeah. It's one system, and we're gonna have to address it system-wise. The fact that they are demanding more and more and more and more, you can't. My first answer was just fuck this future. I want another future. I am disconnected from social media at a level, and I am very caring to myself at this point in time. I want to do what's best for me, and I want to calculate that this might have an effect on those expectations of this super fast world where people consume things and eat and shit them, and really do not appreciate. But you make your own. So in one hand, as an individual, you decide the speed you want to work with, and you be very clear to your Patreons that that's the decision that you made, because that's part of you, and that's part of your process, and that's part of your production. That's part of your design. And responding is never a good idea. Technology is always going to ask for more from us. And I feel like an alien right now. So I don't navigate this universe on technology, and I try to account for clients that I have for a certain period of time, that I can really work them. If I can see them in person, that is even better. And I really connect with them, that for me is what gives me my peace about the future of design. I had mentioned AI in one of my communications, and AI is going to have its role, and it's been created to cut costs. But AI is a tool. If you try to be a tool, you're not going to be a tool as good as the AI. You are the one that uses the tools, and you can use AI for yourself. But the fact that everybody is is working at a certain speed is gonna destroy your mental health, and it's not gonna give a sensation of completion ever. And the rat race is inhuman. So if you're true to yourself, and you can be true to your Patreons, and I don't have anything like that, because those expectations make me super nervous. and you know, people are way more complex than that. So if you have a clear communication on like, this is how often things are going to go, because I don't want to have a burnout then. Instead, and if you do have a burnout now, just be honest and say like, okay, if you want to keep supporting, that's great. I need to leave, and I am not your machine. You're supporting the art needs an artist, and the design needs a designer. In one sense, this is what I've been trying to do, and being very kind to myself. And the future looks brighter like that for me. I think I look at it and I'm like, oh, it's going there, but I'm not going there. And I'm going to find a way to pay the bills and work with what I got. I hope I met a little bit of this, but the future, being a futurologist is always hard. We don't know where it's going to go. But I think right now, you can respond to it, or you can question it. And by the way, WGA is organizing. What about the designers? Why aren't we organizing? I will leave you with that.
We're probably getting close on time here. Does anybody have one last question?
If you want.
If not, let's give Vitor a big round of applause. Thank you so much.